Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is June Allen, and I am the founder of the Art of Greatness at juneallen.net. So, hello. It's been a couple of days since we've caught up, so I wanted to jump on today to talk to you about burnout. Okay, I want to talk to you today about burnout. I've been hearing this quite a lot. Over the last couple of weeks, and I think that there's been obviously last Monday as well was World Mental Health Day, and I did a workshop for a corporate company where a lot of people were talking about burnout, and yeah, we were able to have discussions around what's going on in terms of people still being in denial about everything that's happened around the pandemic, and people are just tired. I think people are just tired, and I think with everything that's going on in the UK as well at the moment, with the cost of living crisis and the utility bills going up and people just not knowing what's going on, it's a very difficult time. Okay, it's a very difficult time. So one of the ways that I'm actually supporting the community, and as well as my clients and stuff like that as well, that I deal with in my membership, is I'm doing a series of workshops around financial therapy. Okay, so financial therapy is all about understanding the psychology of money and how that kind of shows up in your behaviors. Okay, so it's very appropriate, and obviously it's very current at the moment with everybody worrying about what's going on and stuff in the world. But instead of just dealing with what's happening in the now, I thought it would be really helpful to actually create a safe space, a sacred space, so we could come together and really talk about what's going on with us in terms of our money. How do we behave around money? We learn about our money patterns, learn about money trauma, and also think about and support each other around the practicalities as well around money. Quite often we can get caught up in the practicalities around money, what we should be doing in terms of spending plan, making budgets, all of that kind of stuff. But we don't really talk about the the psychology of money, what goes on behind the scenes. Why is it that the patterns that we have, why do we have those patterns, and why are we still carrying on with those things? Why do we find it so difficult to not overspend and do all of that kind of stuff? So the work that I'm doing at the moment, as I bring my therapist lens, I bring my cultural context lens. So what we do is we unpack the relationship between our money behavior, what we learn in our family of origin around money, and also what happened as a result of our ancestors being at the beginning of capitalism, being enslaved on the plantations. What impact does all of that, all of that stuff being passed down, that money trauma being passed down, the fact that our black bodies were commodities and still commodities to a certain degree in the now, what does all that mean for you, for us as a community, around how we spend our money, around our relationship to work and all of that kind of stuff? So I'm bringing all of my therapeutic juice, my therapeutic goodness, for you, to support you in this difficult time around money. So if you're an entrepreneur, if you work in corporate, if you're a business owner, and you want support around what's going on for you, and to understand your relationship with money and to begin to unpack it, to learn some great money rituals and all of that good stuff, then you can join the financial therapy circle that I'm now doing on a Thursday. It's a sacred study circle, but obviously it's going to be around money over the next few months. It's probably going to take us about maybe 9 months to a year to get through what we're doing at the moment. So if you're interested in joining us for those sessions, you can click the link in the bio, go to heal.juneallen.net. That's heal.juneallen.net. That's heal.juneallen.net. So one of the things that's actually anchoring the sessions that we're doing on Thursdays is that we are using this book, The Black Woman Millionaire by Dr. Venus Opal Reese, to guide the conversation. So obviously we're going to be hearing about her story, what she did to become a millionaire, and we're going to be using, as I said, we're going to be using the book, we're going to be using the text to anchor the conversation. That doesn't mean to say you have to want to be a millionaire. It doesn't mean to say that that you have to want to be a 7-figure earner and that you have to come out of corporate and all of that kind of stuff. You don't have to do all of that. We're just reading her story, understanding it from her point of view. But the point of it, the main point of it, is to think about your relationship to money, how to nurture your relationship to money, how to decolonize your thinking around money. It's the psychology of money that we really want to pin down and understand that's important. Okay, so in terms of burnout, okay, there's a section in the book where she's talking about how she's talking about survival, how a lot of us are trapped in survival, and the reason why we're burnt out is because we're in our survival space, you know. And you know, money is a very, very triggering thing to think about. You know, a lot of us would rather talk about anything than talk about our money. You know, a lot of people find it much easier to talk about sex than to talk about money. Okay. But in order for us to be abundant, in order for us to be prosperous, in order for us to learn how to receive, we have to do the shadow work around money. Okay, we have to do the shadow work around money. We have to understand our money trauma. So I wanted to share with you some of the things that she's put in here about, you know, why so many of us as black women are burnt out. And and basically how it's not serving us. Okay, so I'm going to share with you these 5 things. So the first one she talks about is, you know, this whole thing about being independent. Okay, so when we have this independent attitude, it's all about what I can do it all by myself. Okay, I can do it all by myself. I don't need anybody. I'm going to go and get another 12 degrees. I'm going to go and get a master's. I'm going to do this, that, and the other. And we end up doing all of ourselves, and we do all of this, you know, education after education after education, because we want to do it all of ourselves, and that results in burnout. Okay, and quite often that behavior around the independent black woman and all of that, I believe that a lot of that is rooted in the fear of not being able to trust other people. Okay, we're afraid of trusting other people. There's probably attachment wounds around that as well. Maybe there's stuff that happened to us in our childhood. Maybe we had a childhood that was very abusive or neglectful, and so we lost trust. We lost trust in our core caregivers, which it's going to make it difficult for us to then trust other people, okay, as adults. And so that impacts our relationship with money and how we relate to money within the context of a partnership. Okay, there's a wound there. There's a receiving wound there. There's a money wound there that we find it very difficult. So the way that we respond to that, the way that the trauma response around that, the way that we protect ourselves around all that, is to say, you know what, I'm going to earn all my own money. I'm going to do everything myself. I don't need anybody, and that's it. But we just get overworked and we're burnt out. Okay, so that's the first one, independent. The second one is always being nice, people pleasing. Okay, so when we talk about that, you know, we're not able to say, we find it difficult to say no, and we just end up being a doormat for everybody else. Okay, and I think sometimes we think that we need to be nice to everyone. Sometimes we do it because we think that, oh, well, maybe I'll get some more work out of it. Maybe you know, there's this whole thing around people, just taking Black History Month like as an example. You know, they'll say, oh, well, if you do this for free, or if you do this for low cost, it will give you exposure. People say that a lot to entrepreneurs, and people have said that to me. But, you know, people get a sharp no to that answer, to that question, because at the end of the day, you know, one of the reasons why I do a lot of these live streams and I do a lot of this work online for free is because then people can get an idea of how I work. They get an understanding of who I am. They get an understanding of what my values are, and they get like a little snapshot of what it would be like to work with me. Okay, so if I'm doing all of this stuff for free online, which I love doing, and you know, a lot of my clients have been looking at my live streams and following me on social media for years before they come and work with me. These live streams help to build trust. They help to give people an idea as to who I am. It helps to build trust, and then as a result of that, then people can book me for these sort of things. So that means as well that I'm not going to go and now do an event for free because I need exposure, because people get exposure. I already get exposure by doing these live streams. So, you know, what I normally say to people is, look, you know what, my boundary around doing free events and stuff like that is I don't do free events. Okay, I don't do free events because I do already give a lot of free stuff away on social media. So you already know what I'm about. You already know if I'm good enough for your event or not. So you have to get your coins out. It's as simple as that. You know, and we have to learn how to do that as well. We have to learn to say no. Okay, because there's a lot of talented Black women out there that are great at what they do, but they're allowing themselves to fall short because they don't know how to nurture themselves and market themselves in a way that's really going to allow them to earn what they deserve. Hi, thanks for joining. So yeah, so being too nice, okay, and never saying no, we just end up being a doormat, okay, and then you get burnt out. You get burnt out and you get resentful because you're always doing stuff for free. That don't work, okay? It don't work. So it's about learning to say no, okay? Learning to say no. And quite often, you know, what I've learned over the years, because it's still hard for me to say no, okay? It's still hard for me to say no, but the difference is I get support around it. You know, I can talk to my therapist about it. I can talk to other business owners about it. I can process the guilt sometimes around saying no, because there's still that part of me as a woman that thinks that, you know, I should always be serving people. I should be, you know, and people don't always value. They don't always value therapists for what they do. And I think it's because it's dominated by women. It's something that's, you know, they minimize the impact that they have. But at the end of the day, I know I'm good at what I do. You know I'm good at what I do, and so I have to really stand in the fact that yes, I'm good at what I do and I deserve to be compensated appropriately for what I do. So if people do want to work with me, then they have to pay, and it's something that you have to learn as well. So it's going to take time to get into that place, but once you do, it does get easier. Okay, so that's number 2, being too nice. Okay, number 3, the third reason why you're so burnt out is because there's no boundaries around when you stop. Okay, you keep going, you keep going, you keep going, you keep going, you keep going. You need to do more social media, more social media platforms, more this, more that, and you're never ever satisfied with what you're doing. You've become such a perfectionist at what you're doing that you just can't stop, and you always think that you need to be doing something else. You always think that you need to be doing something else. You never feel like what you've done is good enough. And so that compulsion is driving you to just be workaholic, and it's not sustainable long term. You know, it's not sustainable long term. You know, one of the things that I've had to do, you know, when I finished my studies in July, there was the summer holidays, and then obviously my daughter's just gone back to school now, which went back in September. So I almost feel like my body is only just allowing myself to grieve the loss of all of that studying that I was doing, not just the actual going into the class and doing the lectures and all of that kind of stuff, but all the processing that I've had to do over the 4 years that it took me to get to that point, to finish everything. And, you know, I've had to reduce my workload. I've had to really have a word with myself because I have been feeling really burnt out. You know, 4 years of intense studying and doing my doing all of that through the pandemic. And my dad also died as well at the beginning of the pandemic, at the beginning of lockdown. And I just feel like I never really had the chance to do that. And there's been other stuff going on as well that's been really difficult, you know, parenting, and there's been a lot of stuff going on. And so I've had to really own that and not minimize this, because there is that part of me that's like, that was ages ago. Why are you saying that? You still feel like that now? But I had to be honest with myself and say, look, even though this is kind of, you know, 4 years in the making, there's been a lot of quite significant things that have happened that I've never really been able to sit down and grieve them or process them. Okay, so I've had to have a word with myself. I've had to have a word with myself and go, do you know what? You can't just keep going, because if I want to be in this thing for the long game, I have to really think about my self-care and what that means as a therapist. And if I don't take care of myself, I can't hold space for my clients. Okay, if I don't look after myself as a therapist, I can't hold space for anybody, and neither can you. You can't hold space for your clients. You can't hold space for who you look after at work. You can't, if you're a parent as well, it's going to be difficult for you to show up as a parent because you're not looking after yourself. Okay, so all of this, you know, this workaholic compulsion to feel like you have to keep going and always wanting more and never really feeling satisfied with what you're doing. Yes, you might earn a lot more money from always grinding and doing all of that stuff, but then where's your health in all of this? Where's your mental health? You know, because you're going to be overworked. How is this impacting your relationship with your children, your partner, or whatever? How is this going to impact your relationship to your body? It's not sustainable. Okay, so that's why you end up being burnt out, because you're not putting yourself on the top of the list when it comes to taking care of yourself. You're in survival mode. You're driving yourself with all of this stuff, and it's just not sustainable. Okay, it's just not sustainable. the last thing that I want to share, okay, is this thing around being dependable. Okay, you're being dependable, and you're keeping yourself small. Okay, now for a lot of us, okay, especially if you work in corporate or whatever, you know, working in a corporate company quite often, and I had this conversation with someone last night actually at the Black Business, went to the Black Business Awards, sorry, the Black Business Talks for Black women last night, and they were talking about how, you know, in corporate, a lot of black women have to end up keeping themselves small because it doesn't feel safe for them to really share their full selves. It's not safe. And being in those environments can happen for self-employed people as well. You know, I've been in situations where I've you know, I've done workshops and stuff for some corporate companies that are very predominantly white, and, you know, having to deal with kind of like the politics and the white fragility and all of that sort of stuff that comes with it. It's exhausting. You know, it's really, really exhausting. And so, without thinking, a lot of us are in positions where we have to keep ourselves small because that's the only way that we can be when we're at work. That's the only way that we can be that feels safe when we're working with in spaces that are not safe for us. And that process of having to keep yourself small is so exhausting. It's so exhausting, and that's how we get burnt out, because we're having to deny ourselves, we're having to keep ourselves small, we're having to suppress the fact that this person and that person, you know, is triggering us at work. Okay, we're feeling very triggered at work. We're not getting the support that we need. We're not allowed to be visible. We're sick of being other people being promoted when we're not being promoted. We're sick of getting, you know, the patronising pat on the head, but we're not really being recognised for who we are. Just navigating the system at work is exhausting. It's tiring. You know, and if you've been in these jobs for a long time, you know, if you're a parent as well, and we're still dealing with the fact that we're still coming out of a pandemic as well, and a lot of people don't really want to acknowledge that, but that is the raw truth, that we are still recovering from coming out of a pandemic, and not just the pandemic itself, but like for us as black people, there was all of that racial trauma that happened. I mean, the racial trauma never ends, but we, you know, that period when it happened during lockdown as well was really intense. It was really, really intense. And a lot of us are still in denial about a lot of that, you know. So, you know, if you're feeling really, really burnt out and you recognize the stuff that I'm saying, if you identify with it, you know, then it is so important to be able to look at this stuff, not just from a position of what you're doing in the workplace and how it's impacting your relationship with yourself and your body. You have to look at it within the cultural context as well. What does it mean for you as a black woman? And that's the work that I'm doing in the Financial Therapy Circle. If you're interested in joining me for the Financial Therapy Circle, click the link in my bio, go to heal.juneallen.net. That's heal.juneallen.net. That's heal.juneallen.net. This Thursday we're going to be going deeper into this conversation around burnout, survival as a black woman, and some of the things that we're still doing, and the strategies that you need in order to take care of yourself around all of this, because you can't do this stuff by yourself. You can't do this stuff by yourself. One of the things that I hear a lot from black women as well is that they want to stop. They really, really want to stop. They want to do the work, but they just don't know how to. They don't know how to. It's like they're trapped on this hamster wheel of you know, compulsive workaholism, and they don't know how to get off it. The other thing is, they feel like if they do get off it, if they do pause and start thinking about start taking care of themselves, that they just feel that they're just going to get overwhelmed with all the emotions that come with it, and they won't be able to stop. They won't be able to stop the crying, the grief, the sadness, all of that. But these are all things. This is what we're going to be doing in the financial therapy session. This is why it's really, really important. You're going to be held in a space where I'm going to walk you through the characteristics of money trauma, what financial therapy looks like, the stages that you'll be going through around the healing process, and you're going to also be learning, you know, what tools and what the practicalities and stuff that you need to do, what are the money rituals that you need to do in order to start getting your money game your financial therapy money game on. Okay, it's not just about setting budgets and doing all the practical stuff. You also need to look at the psychology of money and what that means for you as a black woman. Okay, so if you're interested in anything that I've said today, please join us click the link in my bio and join us on Thursday. If you know anybody that you think would benefit for anything that I've shared today, please share this live stream with them. Okay, any questions about anything that I've shared today, you can either drop a note in the comments, DM me, or you can email me info@yardofgreatness.com. Thank you so much for joining me today. I've got my own therapy session in a minute, so I'm going to have to go. But it's really good to see you. Thank you everyone who's commented and who's joined me today. I hope you found this useful, and I will see you next time. I'll be on tomorrow, just doing some other stuff. So I'll see you then. All right, take care. Bye bye.